Beautiful. All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. A meeting of the Plan Commission on Monday, April 12th at 6:30 p.m. in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom and also accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Wisconsin Statute Sections 19.83 and 19.84 in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for discussion and action. Roll call shows all members present. Two joining us via WebEx and the rest here at the dais. Next item on the agenda would be public appearance and public input. If there's anyone in the audience that'd like to come forward for public appearance or public input at this time, I'll ask you to do so. Come to the podium or make yourself known via WebEx and state your name and your address for the record. If you are here for two of the public hearings for either Jason Belke or for Sundance on County Line Road, I would ask that you wait until those two items are brought up on the agenda to come forward and speak about them. But if there's anyone else here, either in the audience or joining us via WebEx that'd like to bring up anything else to this body in regards to public input or public appearance, you're welcome to do so at this time. Does anyone wish to come forward? Ma'am, are you here for any of the public hearings? For the second item under new business? Yes, then we'd wait until we open. Yes, until we open the public hearing at that time, then you can come forward if you're wishing to come forward and speak upon that particular public hearing. But if there's anyone else about anything else except for the two public hearings, please come forward. If not, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of minutes from the March 8th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. That then takes us to new business items for tonight. We'll start with new business item A, which is Jason Belke, property owner at North 120 West 13537 Freistadt Road, proposed text amendment to section 17.15 subsection 2 and 17.14 subsection 4 of the Village of Germantown Municipal Code, Zoning Code, to add construction services, contractor shops, garden supplies, and horticultural services as conditional uses that would be allowed in the RS2 single-family residential zoning district. There is a public hearing and action from the Plan Commission tonight. I did get contacted by Mr. Belke asking that the actual action, if so moved by this body, to be tabled. He wasn't ready or available to present tonight. But since the public hearing was listed, we can hold the public hearing because it was noticed and sent out. And maybe some people are here tonight or some people have joined us via WebEx for that reason. So once we get up to action, it's up to this body how you like to move going forward. But at this time, I'm going to turn our meeting over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzloff, to give us some information and background on tonight's public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have a proposed amendment to the zoning code. In fact, I call them two separate amendments, but they're related to the same issue. The first amendment proposed is to section 17.15 sub 2, conditional uses in the RS2 single family residential zoning district. The proposal is to revise and add the following uses to the list of conditional uses that may be permitted in the RS2 district, including construction services and contractor shops, garden supplies, and horticultural services. The second amendment is to section 17.15 sub 4, a section to be created and read as follows. The conditional uses permitted under section 17.15 2K, construction services and contractor shops, and L, garden supplies and horticultural services, shall be permitted only where the property meets the following conditions. Sub A, the property is comprised of 4 acres or more. And sub B, the property is surrounded on all sides by property zoned A1 agricultural district or A2 agricultural district. Going forward, I'm going to be making reference to Jason Bilkey and his property. So I'm going to show just a couple of graphics for that. As we discuss this, it'll make more sense why we're talking about a particular property when we're considering a proposal to amend the overall zoning code. The Bilkey property, as I mentioned, is 4 acres in size. It's located on Freistadt Road on the south side, about a quarter mile east of Country Air and 3/4 of a mile west of Wasaki Road. Here's a close-up aerial view of the property. And we can refer back to this as you deem necessary going forward. The amendment proposed was initiated by Mr. Bilkey, property owner, 4-acre property located on Freistadt Road in an RS2 single-family residential zoning district. In the supporting documentation, the justification that was provided by Mr. Bilkey, he argues that the amendment is necessary to, and I'm using my word, to legalize his existing business so he does not have to relocate. Mr. Bilkey argues that his property is best suited for construction and contracting operations like his because his business is similar to horticultural services uses that are allowed in the A1 and the A2 districts, and that his property is surrounded by larger rural parcels that are zoned A1 and A2 agricultural. Back in the fall of 2020, Mr. Bilkey was issued a code violation notice for operating a landscaping, construction, and snow plowing business in violation of the RS2 single-family zoning district regulations. In the course of discussing with him alternatives that may be available versus simply ceasing the operation, which was the directive in the code violation notice, there were 3 alternatives that were discussed. The first being the possibility of acquiring 6 or more acres of land from an adjacent property, combining that additional acreage with the 4 acres for at least a 10-acre minimum parcel, petitioning to rezone that 10-acre plus parcel from RS2 to A2 agricultural, and then also apply for and obtain a conditional use permit for horticultural services that is allowed in the A2 district with a conditional use permit. The second option was to apply for a conditional use permit as a major home occupation. There is a provision in our code for home occupations. If somebody lives on the property, they can operate certain businesses, provided they meet a rather lengthy list of criteria that apply and are slightly different based on the size of the property and the zoning district that it's in. The third option was to petition the village to amend the RS2 zoning district regulations in some manner that would allow the existing operation, and that's where we are here today. Mr. Bilkey indicated to us that he had approached MMSD, the abutting landowner that surrounds his property on 2 sides, regarding the acquisition or possible acquisition of additional land, but he was unsuccessful. Mr. Bilkey did apply for a conditional use permit for a major home occupation, which was rejected by staff due to it not meeting the definition and criteria for a home occupation. Mr. Bilkey doesn't live on the property, and the 12 to 15 employees that work in the business exceeds the number of employees allowed for a major home occupation in an RS2 zoning district, which is 2 to 3 maximum. Mr. Bilkey submitted his zoning code text amendment, and he also submitted an appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals with regard to the zoning administrator's determination concerning his major home occupation CUP application. Now, going forward, I want to talk more about the amendment itself. The purpose of a zoning code primarily is to implement the public interest expressed by land use and development policies in a community's comprehensive plan. Zoning code text amendments, whether they be map changes, rezonings, if you will, or text amendments must be made for the purpose of improving or enhancing the overall public interest and should not be for the exclusive interest of one particular property owner. Zoning code text amendments should be consistent with and in large measure further the comprehensive plan and future land use plan map that has been adopted by a community. Text amendments shouldn't result in any unlawful exclusionary zoning practices that may result. Zoning code text amendments typically are used to correct errors in the current code or clarify text that has some internal conflict or ambiguous interpretation. Also, zoning code text amendments should be used to update the code to address changes in Wisconsin statutes or other village ordinances. And zoning code text amendments should resolve potential legal issues given recent case law or court decisions and opinions. Mr. Bilkey's text amendment clearly is for the exclusive benefit of his own property and code violation circumstances, not for the public interest. The purpose of a zoning code, again, is to implement the public interest expressed by land use and development policies and comprehensive plan, using districts, each with its own specific list of uses and regulations. In our case, the 2020 land use plan classifies the area within which Bilkey property is located and surrounded as rural residential, with many parcels currently zoned A1 and A2. On the screen is a portion of the current adopted 2020 land use plan for the village. As you can see, the Bilkey property is located in an area, it's highlighted, it's classified yellow, which is the rural residential category, which is intended to provide for residential uses on lots not less than 1 acre in size. And our 2050 land use plan that we're currently in the process of developing, our draft neighborhoods, districts, and corridors map designates the area south of Freistadt Road as a residential neighborhood that's intended for higher density single-family lots, anywhere as high as small as 20,000 square foot lots at this point. And in recognition of and given the extension of sanitary sewer service area that is denoted here with the the dashed black line, as you can see on the outer perimeter of the yellow Wrenwood neighborhood on the left and down to Mequon Road to the south. As you can see in this graphic, the village is contemplating, as part of our 2050 plan, to designate the areas surrounding the Bilkey property for residential neighborhood uses, with the exception of the green area, the rural residential area that drops down below Freistadt Road in this location, simply because the balance of the property surrounding the Bilkey property is owned by MMSD and part of the Green Seams conservation program. So it's an area that is intended to never be developed or divided any further. At this point, the staff recommendation is to deny the proposed text amendments to amend section 17.15 as we discussed. And with that, if Mr. Bilkey or his support folks are here, you're welcome to provide their own presentation at this point in time.
Is there any representation from Mr. Bilkey here tonight? Okay. Anything else?
No.
All right, then with that, I will open a public hearing by hereby stating a notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the Village of Germantown Plan Commission at the Germantown Village Hall located on Mequon Road in Germantown and virtually through WebEx platform on the following date of March 12th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. or later. The purpose of said hearing will be to hear any and all parties, attorneys, or agents for or against a request filed by Jason R. Bilkey for the proposed text amendment to the following sections of the zoning code, chapter 17 of the Village of Germantown Municipal Code, 17-15 subsection 2 and 17-15 subsection 4, pertaining to conditional uses allowed in the RS2 single-family zoning district. Before I ask others to come forward and speak for or against, I do have two communication emails that I had received in regards to tonight's public hearing that I will read for the record. First one reads, we are writing to express our concerns over the request filed by Jason Belkey to rezone his property. We live and own property down the road from this parcel of land and are concerned with the rezoning request being discussed at tonight's meeting. Our main concerns are the possibility of this change causing additional construction, traffic, and noise near our home, as well as the rezoning approval opening the door for other parcels in the area to change the area from the agricultural residential area in which we chose to build our home. Please consider denying this request for the sake of those of us living near an already busy property. And that's thank you, Steve and Jody Rupnow, which is located at North 120 West 13918 Freistadt Road. The next one I have says Village of Germantown. I am sending this email to the Germantown Plan Commission on behalf of Janice Bernard, who lives at North 120 West 13950 Freistadt Road in Germantown. Janice is 82 years old and a lifelong resident of Germantown and has lived at her current address for 58 years. She lives within 1/4 mile of the Belkey property, and she knew the previous owners. She has enjoyed the rural atmosphere and plans on living there for many years. She is surprised by the activity, noise, the amount of vehicles, and the repeat in and out of traffic coming from the Belkey residents. She can see many stored vehicles, trucks, and equipment, whether she travels east or west on Freistadt Road. This is an appealing view. This area is a rural residential area, and the Belkey property appears to be operating a commercial business, which does not fit in this area. Therefore, Janice, and it's directed to Janice of the Public Works Department, the zoning code text amendment as proposed by Jason Belkey. She fears, Janice is against who they're representing. I'm sorry, my problem. She fears additional construction services will be allowed in this area upon the approval of the zoning code text amendment. Currently, A1 or A2 landowners could rezone their property to RS2. Janice Bernard is asking you not to approve the zoning text amendment. Sincerely, Rhonda Hildendorf and Janice Bernard. Those are the two that I have in regards to tonight's public hearing. At this time, if there was anyone wishing to come forward to speak for or against the proposed text amendment to the Germantown Municipal Code, you're welcome to do so at this time. All I would ask is you come to the podium and state your name and your address for the record, or make your wishes known to the person that is manning a WebEx, and they will also allow you to speak as well. So is there anyone wishing to come forward to speak for or against the proposed text amendment for the Germantown Municipal Code?
Can you hear me with this on or?
Is the microphone on? Is the light on there?
Yes.
Okay, either way.
Okay. My name is Bruce Bernardi. My address is North 120 West 13645 Freistadt Road. My wife and I live on the 40 acres adjacent to the Belkey property, just west. We built our home on this property. We reside on this property, and we enjoy the rural, residential life. This is our primary residence, and we live there 12 months out of the year, and we rent our land out, our farmland, to a local farmer. Our neighbor, property owner Jason Belkey, runs his landscape business at this property, and Mr. Belkey does not live at this property, but all of the J.R. Belkey Incorporated vehicles, trucks, trailers, equipment, supplies, and even now a school bus are stored outside in the open as he continues to run his business without the proper zoning or permits. Mr. Belkey has received a stop work order from the village, as Mr. Retzloff said, back in August of 2020, several warnings to remind him that he is in violation of village zoning codes, but still continues to operate his business. Through the years, we have put up with many things, but overlooked most of it due to being a good neighbor. His workers are working odd hours, sometimes late nights, early mornings, noise from next door of the loading of his trucks and unloading of trucks, debris flying into our property. The workers would not even empty out the back of the truck, but they would also clean out the cab of the truck and just spread everything out on the property. The noise from his large wheel loader, either moving around dump debris, dirt, gravel, etc., the loading of trucks, bark, mulch, and or stockpiling the mulch, other supplies, and salt in the wintertime. Mr. Belkey alleges You can't see his operation from the road, but I beg to differ. You can see his employees' vehicles. You can see all of the majority of the equipment parked outside from Freistadt Road, whether you're going east to west or west to east. We look out our front door. Our house sits back off the road. And the front door, out of our living room, our master bedroom, and our master bedroom and our son's bedroom, all you can see is J.R. Belke's large parking lot with his equipment. The appeal of this property has gone down, which was once a small, cute little farm, house and barn, now is turned into a commercial trucking, construction, delivery, personal landfill property. Mr. Belke has basically been running his business illegally from this location since he purchased the property in 2008. Now Mr. Belke has come before the village to try to change the zoning code text so it will fit his business and benefit only him so he can operate his business. I request the village deny the zoning and keep the RS2 zoning as it is.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward to speak for or against the text amendments to the Village of Germantown Municipal Code? Anyone else wishing to come forward? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Tracy Bernardi. I'm Bruce's wife. We live at West 13645 Freistadt Road. We prepared separately, so I'll try not to repeat some of the things he said. We are the immediate adjacent neighbor to the west of him. He has not been living at that property since about November of 2016, but he's continued to operate asphalt construction, snow removal, concrete construction, landscaping, etc. from that property. He resides himself in a peaceful, probably upscale neighborhood on Sparrowhawk Trail in Colgate, while he financially profits from the illegally operating business next to us. He alone benefits from this arrangement while we suffer the consequences associated with his business. He is requesting this amendment change in order to make his current illegal activity all of a sudden legal. We've lived there 27 years. And we do not want the approval of Mr. Belke's proposed text code amendment because it would likely force us to move. We chose this property because we enjoy nature and the peacefulness that accompanies rural life. I can't imagine anyone who wants a similar life experience would be willing to buy some of our land from us if they see an extremely busy construction company operating next to them as a neighbor or amongst other residences in that area. Our land is zoned agricultural because of its size and not because of the activities operated there. The farming that occurs there is extremely minimal and inconsequential to the primary purpose of our land, which is our residence. We have a large investment in our residence and land. We, or eventually our son, plan to develop the unoccupied land in the future. By allowing any loud, noisy, dusty business to operate in the middle of an area currently becoming more residential, especially at contracting, construction services, or contractor shops, isn't congruent. Hello, sorry, nervous. Congruent with what most people want to see or experience. It is also inconsistent with the Village 2050 plan, which lists our property in the Wrenwood residential district. We have been watching the plan develop via WebEx meetings for numerous months now. Although that hasn't been approved, you are collecting public comments, and I would expect the vast majority of it will likely be approved. Changing the code shouldn't be done to solely benefit one individual, namely Mr. Belke, but instead because something's missing in the code or numerous village residents they benefit from it, and it requires some text clarification. Mr. Belke's business has totally outgrown his location, and the activity has become very intrusive and is wrecking our quality of living in the country. The village already has established areas where Mr. Belke could operate his business without adopting this tax code amendment, specifically business or industrial zoned areas, which for the most part, the village tries to keep as reasonably far away from residential living. That would be best suited for Mr. Belke's business. So I'm asking that the Plan Commission not recommend this or deny this tax code change as requested by Mr. Belke.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward to speak for or against the text amendment changes to the municipal code?
I'm Sally Winslow, live at 120 West 13282 Freistadt Road, opposite side of the street from the Belke residence, 2 houses east. I totally concur with everything that's been said so far, so I'm trying not to repeat. I can see all their activity and their accumulation of vehicles and equipment from my house. The noise, unbelievable. My question is, what are the things that we do not see that go on the property also? We have codes, let's stick with that. I'm asking you to deny the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the proposed text amendment to the following sections of the zoning code, which is under 17.15 or 17.154?
Hi, my name is Tanya Cap. I live at West 210 North 10735 Appleton Avenue, and I am offering a perspective of what it's like to live across the street from a place like this that has gone unchecked. I live across the street from TLC Acres, which is a parent company, literally and figuratively, for another business, which is predominantly a construction and snow plowing and hardscape company. They have anywhere from 30 to 50 vehicles on premises a lot of the time. They have a constant stream of traffic going in and out. The trucks, the volume of the trucks when they're dumping sometimes is hydraulic, so it's a chung 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 chung, and it vibrates the entire area. It scares all the animals in the area. It is completely distracting, as a lot of people now work from home. It's very difficult. It scares the wits out of my cats, makes dogs in the area bark. The dust cloud is intense. My mail is covered in dust or mud, depending on the weather. My driveway, which used to be like pristine and cement, is now covered in stones. And the side of the road, which was new as of 2017, the road is just being torn up. The speed of the trucks is definitely a problem. It's really extremely loud and dusty, and sometimes if the wind is blowing your way, you taste it. You can't breathe. You can't enjoy your property. I came to inherit my father's mortgage rate in 2017 as he passed away at 61 years old. And we went through the construction and terracing out of this property, which continues on. And I don't understand how it gets to continue on. I thought there was a 5-year plan. You know, I lost a business last year. And I know that when I went to start my business, there was no way they were going to change the zoning of anything for me. I couldn't even get Spectrum cable residential in a building that had 2 residential locations because the two bottom ones are business, so I had to have business cable. Like, rules are there sometimes for a reason. I mean, I'm sure we would all agree that we can't just change things in a place where people have a community and children and are trying to have a nice life just to suit businesses. Otherwise, it's whoever has the most money gets to decide the rules. And if that's the case, then I guess we're setting a precedent, which, as a previous business owner and a hopeful future business owner, I now know that I could go before the board and say, I would like to rezone my property so that I can do this much business out of it, have a parking lot on it, and completely disrupt the nature in the area. Everything, every single thing is affected by this. So as a person who lives across the street from a bigger enterprise than this, I can attest to the fact that it is a lot of the time awful. And I fear in speaking up that being across the street from it, I'm an easy target for retribution from the business owner, since they have a large amount of investment. I know that they have like a $775,000 loan. So if I interfere in that kind of money, what could come my way? You know, I think it takes great courage to stand up here and talk about this. It takes all my nerves. Like, it's intense. So as a person goes up for a business to just change the rules to suit them so that they can do more to disrupt the society, like, what's the reason for having a community or a society or any of this at that rate? Then it's just businesses for businesses. Go business. That's about all I got to say. I have pages more, and I could say a lot more, but I think I've covered most of what's important. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you for coming forward. Anyone else wishing to come forward at this time to speak for or against the proposed text amendment to the following sections of the zoning code, which is 17.15 subsection 2 or 17.15 subsection 4?
My name is Sharon Gleister. I live right next door to Tanya. I'm just coming as a perspective in a proposal to the rezoning. When they rezoned TLC Acres on West 210 North 10743 Appleton Avenue, that's where I live. Directly across is my driveway. I have 120 trucks a day coming in and out. It's filthy, it's dirty. I can't keep a car in the driveway without getting dirty. Construction brings a lot of yuck, you know, like dirt and mud, and you can't, the whole road is full of dirt, and 120 dump trucks a day for a while. They said that was going to stop. It never did. They fined them. Nothing ever stops. So when is enough? I'm in my house trying to work remotely. All I hear is doors and trucks coming and going, and it sounds like it's in your own driveway. So I'm opposing it because I don't want the residents in that area to go through what we're going through on Appleton Avenue. It is a crazy mess out there and dangerous at that. People are moving. It's devaluating our houses. People couldn't even get what they wanted for their houses when they tried to sell. They're moving away because they don't like all the nuisances and the dirt and taxes are going up instead of down, even though our houses are evaluated less. So I would hate for them to get as big as this place. And they have all days and all night, all days, lights shining in our houses. It's crazy. We've asked them to stop, and they, you know, some of the people would go over there and try to talk to them. They change for a little while and then they go right back to normal, right back to what they were doing. So I'm opposing it for the future of that community because I know what it's like to live in that area. And as big as they get, they'll get big too. And I would feel terrible for them if they have to go through what we go through every single day. And it never stops. I don't know when they're going to stop growing. I keep thinking, hopefully when all the trees are built or, you know, planted, maybe it'll stop, but it never does. And it's been years. And I know Dennis has been there out there talking to the owner a lot. He does a lot with them, but they just never listen. They just keep going. And I've been there my whole life, my entire life. And we've never had this kind of ridiculousness in the area. The dirt, the mud, the trucks, 120 a day. How would you like to look out your driveway every day and then here, and I keep saying, is somebody here? You know, I'm trying to work and it's obtrusive. So I oppose it for the fact that I would hate for it to turn into an area like the one that I live at next door to Tanya. It really did. Not that I'm not moving or anything, but my neighbors already have because it's actually disrupted them so much that they felt the need to move, which is sad because that neighborhood was built by my mother's father, and that whole neighborhood, she lived in every single house and all the relatives lived there, and now everybody's moving away because of this nuisance. So that's my 2 cents on it. And I concur with everyone else's. I know I live it every day and breathe it every day. Can't keep a car in the driveway without keeping it clean because the dust and the dirt. The neighbor says the dust comes right through their windows and dusts everything in their house, and it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Madam, please.
So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the proposed text amendments to the following sections of the zoning code, which is the Germantown Municipal Code 17.15 subsection 2 or 17.15 subsection 4?
Name is Ud Sable, N97W15737 Burr Oak Road. I'm here to ask the planning commission to reaffirm what staff has recommended, that you do not amend the existing zoning code. The main thing is with residential properties, you want it to be the traffic of a residential property, not the traffic of a business. This is his own residential property, as has been pointed out. You don't need tailgates banging in the middle of the night or middle of the day. All it does, it makes noise. The backup alarms on trucks, vehicles do not belong in residential property. So I'm just asking that you reaffirm staff recommendation and deny the amendment to the zoning.
Thank you for coming forward. Anyone else who wishes to come forward to speak for or against the zoning text amendments recommendations? Anyone else wishing to come forward to speak for or against? One last time. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against? And this public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, how would you like to move forward under new business item A?
I would have a question here. Are we permitted to move forward without any input from Mr. Belke?
You are permitted to move forward, but the request has been made for Mr. Belke to postpone it for a month so that he is able to come here and respond to any questions or concerns that we have in regards to his text amendment or his business.
Well, I guess he has that right as a citizen, so I will move that we table this until next month or till a further meeting, future meeting.
Your motion is to table?
Yes.
Okay. Motion made. Do I have a second? Motion made and seconded. No discussion on the motion to table. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Reason for the tabling is to give Mr. Belke a chance to speak in regards to his text amendment proposals and address any concerns that came from tonight's public hearing. All those that came and spoke, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for coming out here and spending time with us tonight. And this will probably be on the next Plan Commission meeting, which could be when, Jeff?
Is it May 12th?
I think that's right.
So it'd be on the first one of the month. There won't be any opportunity, or there won't probably be one for the second or fourth Monday of the month?
At this point, we are likely to have a meeting the fourth Monday of April, but it would be intended to be a 2050 planning meeting,
Okay.
and not for the purpose of regular business like this. So I would say the May 12th would be the next logical meeting date.
Okay, and is it the intent of this Plan Commission to close this public hearing or keep it open so that those that want to make comment at the next meeting can do so in regards to this topic?
Can you
Mr.
put me
Kindler.
down for opposing tabling? I oppose it.
To close the
To
public,
oppose of the tabling of it tonight. I oppose that action.
I think you might want to leave it open because Mr. Bilkey would need to.
sure.
Yeah.
We didn't vote, right?
Not yet.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. And you opposed it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
So-
Okay, does anybody have any questions in regards to tonight's public hearing or this item? And just so everybody understands, this is not to rezone Mr. Belkey's property. This is to change the zoning code so that his property could be rezoned, but he would still have to come forward with a rezoning change request. So it's not automatic, just because if this board would choose to do it, or the village board would choose to make the change, it doesn't mean that he gets this automatically. He would still have to go through the process to request that change to be applied to his property.
Right, for a conditional use permit.
That's correct. Sir, you have a question? No, they're still open. They're still open so that they can be made at the next meeting, and Mr. Belkey can make his as well. Okay? Any other questions in regards to new business item A? Again, thank you all for coming out and for speaking. Next item under new business is item B, Sundance Inc., agent for Marshall and Diane Peebles, property owner located at North 96, 18058 County Line Road. Application to rezone 4.91 acres from B1 Neighborhood Business to the B5 Highway Business Zoning District. A conditional use permit to allow development within a 25-foot wetland and 75-foot navigable waterway setback, and a site plan application for a 1,786 square foot Taco Bell restaurant with drive-through facilities. Tonight's is public hearing and action by the Plan Commission. To give us some more background and information on this new business item, I'll turn the meeting over again to our Community Development Director, Jeff Ratzloff.
Thank you. As you indicated, the subject property is just under 5 acres in size. As shown on the screen, the red boundary is approximate for the 4.9 acres. The parcel straddles the Menominee River. And the area that we're talking about this evening is the area of existing development on the west side of the river that is denoted by the white dashed line. Here's another perspective of the site. Contains an existing multi-tenant commercial building. The proposal, in summary, again, 4.91 acre site to be redeveloped. The area of redevelopment, that white dashed area, is 0.83 acres in size, approximately, west side of the river. The proposal is to demolish the existing 3,925 square foot multi-tenant retail building and an additional 1,200 square foot accessory building on the site. Remove and replace all the pavement, the landscaping, lighting, that in effect will reduce the total amount of impervious area on the property. And then in turn construct a new 1,786 square foot quick serve Taco Bell restaurant with a drive-through service window. As we'll discuss, the intention is to use the existing single driveway onto County Line Road. The three applications that are required, I'll go through those rather quickly. The rezoning application is required to change to the B5 Highway Business District. The existing B1 Neighborhood Business District that applies to the property does not allow restaurants with drive-through facilities. So the B5 district was proposed as a logical zoning district for a use that is highway oriented and serves patrons predominantly through drive-through window facilities. The conditional use permit is required because some of the redevelopment is encroaching into a 25-foot wetland and a 75-foot navigable stream setback that apply to the property. This graphic shows the 0.83 acre area approximately, and the solid green line on the right is the wetland boundary that's been delineated on the property. It's just west of the Menominee River itself. That doesn't show up well on this particular image, but it's there. The pink dashed line is offset 25 feet from the wetland boundary, 25 feet setback. That area between the green and the dashed pink line is that 25-foot wetland setback area. And the redevelopment that's proposed is going to encroach into that area approximately 690 square feet, a very small amount. The blue or purple solid line setback further west, 75 feet from the high water mark of the Menominee River, is the 75-foot navigable waterway setback. And the amount of area of the redevelopment is significantly larger, but it's a total of 12,710 square feet, for a total of 13,400 square feet of area within the two setback areas, which is about a third of an acre. The amount or the type of redevelopment in those setback areas is all less than 3 feet of grade change. So the compensation required under the village code is simply a 1-to-1 ratio. So a minimum of 13,400 square feet of compensation area would be required. 15,000 square feet is actually proposed to be comprised of a vegetated filter strip located between the parking lot and the Menominee River, and also an area north of the redevelopment site as shown on the diagram in sort of the hatched area, an area within which invasive species removal will take place within the existing wetland and adjacent areas. Now, the third application, the site development and building plan or site plan application, has a few more details to discuss. The site improvements that are proposed include removing and replacing the existing asphalt, parking, driveways, demo and remove both of the buildings, the existing utilities, light poles and signs, install new interior curbing and asphalt driveway, drive-through lanes and parking stalls. A total of 22 parking stalls are proposed. Install new exterior light poles and fixtures, new sanitary sewer and water laterals on site. Install on-site storm sewer and swales as part of the drainage system to carry water to the vegetated filter strip, if not to the storm sewer, in County Line Road along the east side of the site. Also, additional landscaping will be installed in various areas along the south property line, the north and south side of the buildings, driveway, entrance, and the dumpster enclosure. As I mentioned, the proposal is to reuse the existing driveway as shown in the lower right corner of the diagram. As you can see here on the site plan, the building is approximately in the same location as the existing building. The parking area to the east, the drive-through facility would wrap around to the north and to the west side of the building, between the new Taco Bell building and the Fleet Farm Auto Service building that lies further to the west. And then traffic would come back around in a counterclockwise direction back to the parking area and back out to the single driveway on County Line Road. Landscaping plan we can discuss if necessary. Building improvements. Again, a 1,786 square foot single-story building with a flat roof, parapet walls to hide the roof-mounted mechanicals, single drive-through service lane on the west side of the building, and also a small outdoor dining patio with railing on the south side of the building. The building itself will be cladded in brick veneer with a two gray color scheme. Two pre-finished rust corner features, brightly colored art panels installed on the east and west elevations, and aluminum storefront windows. Here's a couple of the proposed building elevations, renderings of the building, if you will. This would be looking at the south side of the building. You can see the outdoor dining patio area in the foreground. This view is from the southwest, looking toward the west side of the building with the drive-through facility, drive-through window, the large rust-colored tower feature on the southwest corner of the building. This view is from the southeast, looking toward the main entrance on the east side of the building. You can see both the proposed tower features, again, one on the southwest corner to the left and another on the northeast corner of the building to the right. Planning staff comments concern architecture and exterior materials. In my opinion, it's just a little too plain and somewhat monotonous. I recommend that additional articulation with various features or materials other than just simply color change be incorporated into the design. One of my concerns always is that in proposals such as this, the articulation that's proposed is simply a color change. It's all in the same plane. Now, apart from the tower features and the main entryway, the rest of the building is simply just flat walls, relatively tall. And while there's different orientations of brick material, and there is a two-color scheme proposed, a light gray and a dark gray, in reality, the colors don't really show up quite as contrasting as they are presented in the renderings that we typically get. And as an example, there's another Taco Bell proposal up in West Bend that is going through the same, or recently went through the same process. That store is open now, as I understand it. And they have a similar color scheme, the two shades of gray. Some of the features are slightly different. In these two pictures that are shown, the artwork that's proposed for the Village Taco Bell, Village of Germantown, aren't hung on the walls in this case. I assume that they will be. There's the gooseneck lighting that's located on the two elevations in a similar way. But presumably this building have a similar type of material and color scheme. And this just looks to me to be just too plain. And as shown in the renderings for the Village proposal, it's similar. Here's the east elevation of the building with the drive-through facility window, and you can see on the back side, the north side of the building, it's just 18 feet of brick without any particular articulation or creativity on the design. Moving on, there was a traffic impact study that was prepared for the proposal. In fact, if you remember back in December of 2020, we originally brought this proposal to you. And at the time, we didn't have the results of the traffic study, so things were tabled and continued until that information was provided. In staff's opinion, the traffic impact study that was prepared through the original study and subsequent responses to questions and issues raised by staff reveals what I would consider significant issues, suggesting that this particular site is not best suited for a high traffic generator like a fast food or quick serve restaurant like Taco Bell. Higher traffic generation combined with the current deficiency at the driveway or Shady Lane intersection has shown or is projected to have a reduced level of service over time. Right now, the analysis, the original analysis shows traffic coming off of County Line Road from both the east and the west, but didn't do any real assessment of any potential traffic crossing County Line Road between Shady Lane, which is the road that serves Kohl's and Target. And when they did a subsequent sensitivity analysis and threw in some additional cars, assuming some traffic might want to come across County Line Road to get to and from the site, that particular approach off of Shady Lane, the level of service drops below level of service D, which is deemed to be the acceptable level of service. So there's some information that would suggest that the amount of traffic and the direction from which it may be coming to this Taco Bell could have a significant impact on the intersection to the point of necessitating improvements. In fact, we discussed with the traffic consultant the notion of what happens if the level of service drops and the intersection needs to be improved. The intersection realistically cannot be signalized because it's too close to the Fleet Farm intersection with a signal just to the west, about 400 feet approximately. The improvements that would be required would likely be median closure on County Line Road, which would have an impact on turning movements, left turns, through movements off a shady lane. There's a few alternatives that have been thrown out there. In fact, I've got some slides that show that. We can discuss those if necessary. Moving on, another issue that staff is concerned with, given the information provided in the traffic study, is that the sight distance looking east from the existing driveway is bad. The vehicles leaving the site are required to, what I term as, nose out into the beyond the driveway into the travel lane. In this case, the auxiliary travel lane, which is, as it's marked, becomes a right turn lane into the Fleet Farm intersection. This picture I stumbled across on Google Maps. And if you do what you can do with Google Maps in advance every 100 feet or so, you'll see that this car doesn't move. It's having a difficult time getting into the traffic because it wants to turn left, presumably, onto eastbound County Line Road. And so to look past down the road to look for acceptable gaps, it's got to nose out into the road. And this is supported by the traffic study, which indicates that, or supports the idea that the limited sight distance, the poor sight distance, is a product of the curvature of the road, the bridge railing that's in line of sight for vehicles that are sitting at the driveway. There are trees and other vegetation that grow on the north side of the bridge that also get in the line of sight. The volume of traffic, the speed, and inadequate gaps in westbound traffic all contribute to the sight distance issue along County Line Road. The traffic study goes on to recommend certain improvements be made to achieve what they term a minimum sight distance required for certain types of vehicles. Not the desirable sight distance, but the absolute minimum sight distance that's required. And those improvements include reconstructing the curb line on County Line Road. This graphic shows the small blue areas on either side of the driveway entrance are the area within which the curb would need to be moved. Let me go back to another graphic. You can see here where that vehicle leaving the site is nosed out into the road. You notice the curb line sort of bends back to the north on the driveway. In effect, what needs to happen is that curb line needs to be brought back into, in this diagram to the left, or into the closer to the travel lanes, to allow for additional space, if you will, for the car to not nose out into the travel lane, but nose out far enough to get to the curb edge and be in a safer spot, to be able to achieve a better sight vision or distance down County Line Road. So reconstructing that curb line, there's also a need to move a portion of the railing on the bridge. The railing, it's got a lot of vegetation growing within it. It's being recommended by the traffic consultant to relocate a portion of that further west or north, if you will, onto the site. On this diagram, it's shown as this solid white line. Bent up on about a 30-degree angle and moved further onto the property. The other improvement, as evident here, is the need to remove that vegetation and keep it from crossing through and growing through the bridge railing because it gets in the way of the sight vision distance along a County Line Road. Now, here's a couple of graphics from the traffic study that show from a position in the driveway looking easterly down County Line Road. As you can see, this graphic, the conclusion is in the text that the sight distance, the minimum sight distance required, cannot be achieved in this location where a vehicle is parked 14.5 feet back from the road. You can't see far enough down County Line Road that minimum 450-foot distance. In fact, in this diagram or graphic, it shows that the vehicle or whatever that's coming around the curve, if you will, past the railing can first be seen at a point of 215 feet from that position on the driveway from a vehicle that's either a passenger car or an SUV or a typical car that you and I would drive. Now, this position basically moves that car about 8 or 9 feet further closer towards the road. It's now nosing up, if you will, into the roadway to get a better look down the road. In this case, it still can't achieve the minimum distance required for a passenger vehicle. Now, for a single unit truck, which has been described in the study as like a UPS truck or a FedEx truck or a panel truck, because you're sitting up higher, you're able to see further down the road in a manner. But if you notice on this particular graphic, you're looking over and behind the railing in order to see the vehicle at the minimum required distance. At this point, it makes some sense. If you're sitting high enough, the bridge railing will never get in your way of vision as the vehicle comes closer. But obviously, if you're in a passenger vehicle, that situation isn't the same. The third issue that staff has with regard to the traffic study or traffic-related issues is limited on-site circulation. Some turning movement diagrams have been provided in the packet of information that show under the best of conditions, basically after hours, nobody in the parking lot, trucks being driven by folks who are familiar with the site and know how to make the turns inside the parking area in order to make the full movement, to make the deliveries and get in and out efficiently. Show that trucks, even under those conditions, are required to jump an interior curb and go through an area that would ordinarily probably have parking, vehicles parked in it during the day. This turning movement diagram that's shown for a anticipated or typical delivery truck for a Taco Bell shows the points at which there's potential conflict with the features. The first one on the north, the vehicle is turning and crossing into the dumpster enclosure area. It's coming back. A portion of the truck is swinging through the main parking stalls in the middle of the site. Both the cab and the trailer are jumping over that median in the middle, which by design is supposed to have a mountable curb so the vehicles can travel over it. And on the southern end, approaching real close, if not barely touching, the retaining wall that exists there today that will be retained as part of redevelopment of the site. The concern staff has with this is that if there's vehicles in the parking lot when the deliveries are made, or the truck or the driver doesn't feel confident being able to navigate on the site, they're going to park on County Line Road in that auxiliary lane. Washington County staff is concerned that although it's auxiliary today and intended for right turns in the Fleet Farm further down the road, one day the traffic will increase to the point they'll need the third lane for through traffic, and we can't have a position or situation where we're relying on County Line Road to provide the parking, temporary as it may be, for deliveries to be made by hand truck through and across the sidewalk that's proposed. Stop and pull out and wheel in boxes or whatever the delivery happens to be. So a concern that in large measure, the site is extremely tight in terms of being able to provide for on-site navigation of trucks. The turning diagrams for utility trucks and fire trucks do show a better situation that they can navigate on site. Additional comments, inspection services, the typical state approved plans and occupancy bond would be required. Village Forester has some suggested changes to the planting schedule and the types of plants used in along the pavement edge. Public Works has a January 6th review memo with minor technical corrections that need to be made. The water utility similarly has some minor technical corrections. The staff recommendation at this point, however, is to deny the rezoning application, proposing to rezone the property from B1 to B5. And without that rezoning, the other items become somewhat moot. So the recommendation is also to deny the conditional use permit and the site plan and building plans as proposed. With that in mind, and knowing that this is a difficult issue to deal with and changes can be made, staff I have identified a number of conditions and requirements that if the Plan Commission chose to recommend approval of the Taco Bell redevelopment proposal, staff would recommend some conditions be included along with that. There are 12 conditions. There's no conditions with the rezoning. If you approve the rezoning, there's no condition required. If you approve the conditional use permit, there's one condition for an annual monitoring report. And if you were to approve the site development and building plans, staff is recommending a total of 12 conditions that I'm not going to go through, but they're in the staff report and we can discuss if necessary. I would point out that a couple of those conditions do reflect the opinions or positions that the Washington County Highway Commissioner would like to see as conditions of approval if this were approved, since the road is under the jurisdiction of Washington County. With that, I would invite Taco Bell, the applicant or representatives, to provide their own presentation at this point and respond to questions from the Plan Commission.
Representation from Sundance and or Taco Bell, welcome to come forward.
Good evening, board. I guess I'm a little surprised because about a month ago we had a conference call with Jeff and we went through all of what is now being told is wrong, and I left that conference call feeling pretty good about the outcome. So we had the traffic study, we had the engineers there, we had Jeff on the phone, we went through everything back and forth, and I'm a little lost for words when I got the meeting minutes on Friday. No. But so I'm not a traffic study expert, but I brought one, so I'm gonna have him talk a little bit about the traffic impact.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, my name is Michael May with Traffic Analysis and Design. I'm a licensed professional engineer and certified professional traffic operations engineer. Been a traffic engineer now for about 19 years. And I'm very familiar with this corridor as I used to live within the village and still currently use the corridor for some family needs. So I want to thank Jeff for his presentation of the traffic study, and I can appreciate his concerns. I just want to provide some additional information regarding some of the comments that were made. And some of this, I don't think it was intentional. but I think it may have just been a misunderstanding. Regarding safety operations, it was mentioned that we have alternatives here that can, or improvements here that can meet the minimum sight distance requirements, but that's the bare minimum. We're not meeting desirable. I just want to clarify that a little bit because this is a bit of a technical thing. Minimum sight distance is actually the sight distance that's the national standard for the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, also known as AASHTO. So it's the standard that's used by municipalities, counties, and states across the United States. The desirable distance provides just a little extra buffer to that intersection sight distance. It's not technically a requirement of counties and AASHTO. So we have identified improvements that can provide that intersection sight distance. And I think Jeff did a good job outlining what those would be. It would include moving that curb further towards the median on County Line Road. Yeah, if you could bring that up, Jeff, that'd be great. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Oh, there we go. The county is okay with doing this as well. All they care about is they want to make sure that the auxiliary lane width is kept the same as it is upstream of this intersection, so that plows, when they get here, they're not bumping into the through travel lane. And so my understanding is the design provided by Excel will provide or meet that criteria. The other thing we're recommending, again, is moving that guardrail further north to provide that extra sight distance. And then the third thing, and the Taco Bell applicant has indicated he's accepting of this, because I believe the stream passes through his, the river passes through his property to maintain the cutback of vegetation and brush in the area. So with those modifications and with the project making those modifications, will actually make this driveway safer than it currently exists. Because if this driveway is not improved, people will continue to have those problems seeing down the road, and this improves it. The other thing regarding intersection operations, Jeff indicated properly as well. We're currently right at level of service D. What level of service is it's not like at school where you want your kids to come home with all A's. It's more of a grading. We could have called it grades red through purple, but level of service D or better means, on average, a motorist leaving a driveway or a road will wait no more than 35 seconds, okay, on average. Level of service E means, on average, you'll wait 35 to 50 seconds of time on average. Anything beyond that is an F. So desirably, we really want to keep that level of service D. If you move into that level of service E range, that represents the capacity of a movement or an intersection. And so we try to avoid that. But if it dips into level of service E, a few seconds, typically you're okay. If things, of course, deteriorate beyond that, you start seeing motorists take risks and take risks with gaps in traffic. Now, one thing that Shady Lane has, first of all, the driveway itself is going to operate at a level of service C or better. So that's within that acceptable range. The issue that I think is coming up is that if traffic grows on Shady Lane and additional traffic decides to depart from Shady Lane and make a left turn, that movement is the one that we see possibly into the future dipping into that level of service E. If you look at Shady Lane, I'm not sure if there's an aerial available, but if motorists find that movement is difficult to make, they'll start finding alternative routes. And the alternative routes that you have available here, I'm sorry, I'll just wait just in case there is. Yeah, I would need one a little bit more zoomed out, but it's primarily Kohl's and the Target that use this Shady Lane. Target has access to Appleton Avenue and to County Line versus Rivercrest, so they have an alternative means of departure. And then the Kohl's also has the ability to use Shady Lane to Rivercrest, or they can use Premier Lane or the truck driveway behind it to also make its turning movement. So where I'm going with that is if motorists experience excessive delay, they typically find other routes because they don't want to wait. So it would be our hope that, and I think I think we're actually seeing that now with some of the traffic counts because we're right at that DE threshold. Is I think people are actually going to divert and start using Appleton Avenue, one of the signals there, or driveway to exit. So I think that's all I really had at this point. There were some other, there they are. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for putting that up. If you look in the staff report, there were 4 recommendations directly related to the traffic study themselves. One, the first 3 were the ones I mentioned for the driveway and improving the line of sight at that driveway. A 4th one is relocating a stop sign on the south leg, which is a pretty minor thing. I won't go too much into that detail. It's just located on the wrong side of the crosswalk right now. And then another thing that was raised was, and this was asked by the county, is if in the future an operational problem occurs here and a safety problem rears its ugly head, what things can be done in order to improve operations at the intersection and make it safer? And so we provided these 3 alternatives in concept, and I'll go through them real quickly. You probably don't want to listen to me all night. In the northeast corner, sorry, the northeast, the upper right-hand corner of your screen, what this option would do is keep all movements left in, left out, and right out from the Taco Bell side, but restrict Shady Lane to right in and right out only. In the lower left-hand corner, this does the opposite. It maintains Shady Lane as a left in, left out, right out access, and restricts the Taco Bell to right in, right out only. And then in your lower right-hand corner, this is an alternative that on both sides of the intersection would create a left in, right out only scenario. So these are 3 median closure options that could be considered in the future if a problem arises. And it's my understanding that Taco Bell has agreed that if a problem does rear its head here, that these are improvements or modifications that they'd be willing to help make in the future. So that's all I have for now. I really look forward to answering any questions that the Plan Commission may have going forward. So please know that I'm here, and thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, that wasn't me talking, just so everybody knows. Thanks, Mike. Just to follow up on a few things that Jeff had said, one regarding deliveries to the site, which we did speak in long lengths with him as well as the county as far as the concern trucks parking out on County Line Road. Is Sundance does have complete control of when their deliveries arrive and leave. And this isn't going to be the first site that Sundance has deliveries done off hours. And I'm sure Sundance is willing to put that in writing to ensure that happens. They also have control over what size trucks that complete the deliveries. Out of sake for representing the largest vehicle possible that would possibly enter the site and being able to get out for deliveries, representing the largest semi you could possibly pull in here, which is a 53-foot trailer with a sleeper cab on it, which is basically an over-the-road semi. And realistically, that is not going to be the type of vehicle that's going to be utilized to make deliveries to this property. But being responsible from an engineering standpoint and a layout standpoint, if we're say a full-size semi would happen to pull in here, I got to ensure that they've got a way out, which they do. And that would be under the assumption that those deliveries are made off hours. I know Jeff touched on architecture a little bit. What was presented is Taco Bell's prototype building from an architectural standpoint. Yeah, there you go. Tim, I don't know if you have any comments as far as the architecture goes.
Could you speak to the microphone, please? Thank you.
The conference call talking about articulation and looking for some guidance. You know, we came to the two towers that we're presenting here, and I would argue that this building is vastly different than the West Bend. And the part that Jeff talks about, that's the long 18-foot, is the drive-through side, and it's covered by the trees. So, you know, I don't think that from a passerby, you know, driver going by, you're going to see, you know, the best part of the building. And, you know, that when, again, we asked for some input and what he wanted to see, and we couldn't get anything. He just said some more articulation.
Yeah, if there's any questions, I don't know if, I'm assuming we'll get to a question and answer. The architect is available virtually as well.
Okay.
Touching back on a few things that Mike said in regards to the undesirable level of service, and I believe that was level of service E for the northbound left turn. That would be represented whether Taco Bell would be at this location or not, and that's generated due to increase in traffic on County Line Road. And if you have any further questions on that, Mike, I'm sure it could further explain in that regard what would be happening there under those assumptions. And the last comment I would just make, and this is something that was discussed with the county, is Sundance is willing to go under some sort of agreement, some memorandum of understanding with the county that if there are any future concerns at this intersection, that the county and Sundance would work together to mitigate those. I know Taddy presented some options as part of the traffic impact analysis that he went through. You know, those are a few options that could be potentially discussed if needed. But Sundance is fully willing to do that, you know, if on a needed basis, it's needed in the future. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I think the new buildings are an upgrade over our existing building for sure, you know, and we're looking to bring a more efficient kitchen so we can service the customers here more quickly, because the old store is the old design, old layout. It's not efficient.
Okay.
And we did reach out to Scott Schmidt at the county earlier today. We just wanted to pass on Jeff's conditions of approval, which they're in agreement on, and which have already actually been implemented in the plans that are in front of you tonight, to ensure that this falls within the state and federal guidelines that are required at this location. So willing to do that, and as well as the memorandum of understanding, whatever that may look like, and, you know, working with the county moving forward. So.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, we're here to answer questions. Mike with Taddy, he'll hang around, as well as Jay Johnson with Excel from an architectural standpoint for any questions that we can answer. So.
Okay. Thank you. Then I would open this public hearing by hereby stating a notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the Village of Germantown Plan Commission at the Germantown Village Hall located on Mequon Road in Germantown, and virtually through WebEx platform on the following date of Monday, April 12th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. or later. The purpose of said hearing is to hear any and all parties, their attorneys or agents for or against the following applications filed by the applicant for: number one, a rezoning from the B1 Neighborhood Business Zoning District to the B5 Highway Business Zoning District pursuant to section 17.32 of the Village Zoning Code. And number two, a conditional use permit to encroach into the 25-foot wetland setback and the 75-foot navigable waterway setback pursuant to sections 24.04 subsection 3 subparagraph C subparagraph 5 of the Village Zoning Code for the property described below. The applicant is Tim Krause, Sundance Inc., agent for Marshall and Diane Peebles, who are the property owners, and the property is located at North 96, West 18058, County Line Road. Before I ask others to come up and speak for or against the rezoning application or the conditional use permit, I do have several communications that we received via email that I'd like to read into the record. The first one reads, as a former police officer, 25 plus years, and crime prevention specialist. If you rezone the area that you are considering, it would cause a great stress to County Line Road and to the entire area. I have a degree in crime prevention through environmental design, which includes traffic patterns and the like. If you give Sundance Inc. another variance, stoplights so they can have their customers have easy access and egress from their property, it would be a heavy burden on County Line Road. If you do a traffic study, you will see there is already too much traffic on County Line Road, and traffic lights will not help but only hinder. See the problem that Milwaukee has with their traffic light problems. Thank you for your time. Joseph D. Pinter, who is located at North 98 West 18032 Bramblewood Court. The next communication says, as a Germantown resident, Rivers Bend condo, I am strongly opposed to Taco Bell or any other fast food restaurant moving into this area. The area is so congested and dangerous now. We would be willing to add more traffic to this, more congestion, more noise in a residential area. Taco Bell is fine right where they are in a building already there. Let's view the general area. How many fast food chains exist off the highway? Enough? No. That's from Merton Traeger and Starine Traeger, located at West 180 North 9909 Riverbend Circle West. The next email is as states, this is to notify you that we are against any rezoning for Taco Bell, and that's from Gerald and Joan Winkler. They're located at North 180 North 9918 Rivers Bend Circle West. The last communication we received reads to the Germantown Community Planning and Zoning Services. I received the notice of the public hearing on April 12th. I remain concerned about the possible changes at the property located at North 96 18058 County Line Road. I live in Rivers Bend condo, immediately east of the wetlands and the old golf course. The concern is the flow of the Menominee River and the wetlands. The river is only a few feet from the mall. That is being assessed to change. Heavy rain in 24 hours, flooding begins. The west lawn of 30 condos at Rivers Bend West are at risk. There is added water runoff from Fleet Farm, Steins, and Menards. If the tunnel under the bridge on Highway Q remains open, that should be good. Or if blocked, there is no outlet for added stormwaters. Plus, after storms, there always appears to be downed trees moving in that direction. In the past, downed trees have blocked the tunnel. There are also so many food choices with exits from 4145, it's difficult to see a need. I found that in 1 mile, the 10 traffic lights, Division Road to JGP store, and one more at Aldi's, it is almost impossible. There are many local businesses that enter/exit on or over Q during different times on Q. The hotel and Fleet Farm speak of issues even with lights at their exits. Left-hand turns leaving the new Taco Bell will be a grave danger. Last question, the hotel owns the golf course. Who owns or is responsible for the wetlands? It was stated that Taco Bell property is to add 25 feet for parking or what? How will food prep and serving or food be done? That takes a lot of water cleaning and no grease or chemicals, etc. into the sewer, not the wetlands. Number 3, isn't an unneeded food spot infringing on nature? Not so good for everyone else or for the good of Germantown. To change the water river away 75 feet, I question as nature will do what nature will do, and climate changes will be part of that with wind, water, and fire. Thank you for allowing me to share concerns respectfully, and thank you, a Rivers Bend condo member, Shirley Engelman at West 180 North 9843 Riverbend West. Those are the communications we received for tonight's public hearing. If there is anyone in the audience or joining us via WebEx that would like to come forward to speak for or against the rezoning application or the conditional use permit, you're welcome to do so at this time. All I would ask is you come to the podium and state your name and your address for the record. Is there anyone wishing to come forward?
Hi, my name is Corey Imke. I live at W178 North 9712 Rivers Bend Circle West. I came here with a lot prepared to say to you guys, and I'm not going to say any of it because it's pretty obvious what is going on here tonight. You guys have already agreed with Taco Bell. That's why they bought that property over there. They're only renting where they are.
That's not true, man.
And Taco Bell can talk about its beautiful aesthetics all they want. They are the grossest contributor of garbage over on County Line Road, and I can prove it in pictures. I've taken hundreds of pictures over there. You could fill dumpsters with the garbage out the back of their drive-through. Nobody ever picks it up. And Boza's job is to maintain compliance of these restaurants, these businesses that we support with our taxes. And Boza doesn't do anything over there. You talk about enclosed garbage containers. Go take a look. They all got them, but the gates are all open over there. Most of their dumpsters are overflowing and garbage is filling the sides and the back of the enclosures. It's gross. You try to take a walk in our neighborhood, you know what we see? Booze bottles, used needles, used condoms. It's disgusting. Yeah, you look surprised. Apparently you don't live in Germantown. You, Mr. Smug, making faces over there about anything negative being said. You people are ridiculous. Nobody in this room has said one thing about the neighbors. Not one thing. It's sad. Very sad. That's what I have to say.
Thank you for coming forward. Does anyone else that would like to come forward to speak for or against the rezoning application or the conditional use permit?
Good evening. I'm Susan Lazarski. I live at West 180, North 9867, Rivers Bend, Circle West. You might have our whole block here. But doing a couple of us have walked around and talked to residents that could not come. And one of the things she was right on is we are the only residential subdivision or association, you want to say, is involved in this whole area on Q where all the fast food is. In the ranches, there are probably, I would say, 70% of people are retired. So when we want to go out, even in the daytime, you take your chances pulling out, especially with the traffic. There's always traffic there. Maybe Sunday morning when you're going to church, not. But otherwise, it is a little bit taking your life in your hands sometimes. Also, there is a concern with some of the crime that is happening out there. And I don't know if our master board in the association is aware of the crime with Speedway. Speedway is a big concern of mine. Walmart around the corner, Fleet Farm too. So the fast foods, I'm not hearing too much about, but that is a concern. But Mr. Retzloff, you really, some of your concerns are our concerns too. So that was really good. We're really concerned about the wetland and what's going to happen there. And everybody that's on that west side, we now have lights. Well, we have lights, but you can see Menards, you can see Fleet Farm. You can see Buffalo Wild Wing lights. Now we're going to get more lights in our backyard for sitting out there at night. It looks like we have parties going on over there. But we are concerned, and we are representing a lot of the people that were polled today that couldn't come because some of them are elderly and couldn't come. So we agree with denying the rezoning and denying the conditional use permit and denying the site development plan also. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward to speak for or against the rezoning application or the conditional use permit?
Hi, good evening.
Evening.
My name is Doug Lohman. Address is W180N9881, Rivers Bend Circle West, from the Rivers Bend condominium, just like everybody else that's commented thus far. I was really encouraged, Mr. Ratliff, when you said that the site is not a good candidate for light. And I'm sure everybody here is aware of it, but I want to put it into numbers. from Division Road to Maple Road, it's 1.25 miles, and there are 10 traffic lights in that area there. You know, it's not unusual for me to exit 41 North and go to my house and have to stop at 4 traffic lights out of 5. Sometimes I just drive through there and just count how many traffic lights I have to stop at. And it's not unusual to be 8. And that's in 1.25 miles. 1.25 miles, stopping at 8 lights. I noticed also the traffic engineer, I forget his name, stated he gave us a number of plans that a way of doing that without doing lights. The thing that I saw is that it's going to bring up an awful lot of U-turns by every single one of those plans. That's the only thing that's left to the people to do is U-turns. Retired Officer Pinter, he sent in a letter, I heard you say, and he talked about you know, the problems on County Line Q. I produced a video of the traffic on County Line Q. It is on my YouTube channel. I encourage you to go and see it. I'll give you right now that it's not empirical data at all. It's just a video of what the traffic is like. It's a video of accidents. It's a short video. Doug Loman, Loman. I really encourage you to go and see that video. But I'm sure you're also quite aware of what traffic is like in that area. Presently, we have Taco Bell has multiple entrances and multiple exits. And we're proposing that we go down to a single entrance and a single exit, regardless of which side of the road on. My contention is that by the side of the road that they're moving to the north side, there is going to be accidents pulling out and going left. There's going to be more accidents. Once you have the property in place and doing that, the only thing that's going to happen in the future to correct that is putting in another stoplight. Really, I think that's the only solution that's going to be able to work in a situation like that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you all listening.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward to speak for or against the rezoning application or the conditional use permit?
My name is Trifina Gamola.
You pull that down a little bit. That's perfect. Thank you. Yep.
It's Trifina Gamola. I'm at W180N9923 Rivers Bend Circle West. And I oppose their construction and I propose to deny them. It's right in my backyard and I'm concerned about the wetlands and the traffic and everything that's already been stated, I agree with. So that's my vote, is to oppose it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the rezoning application or the conditional use permit? As a resident or as a trustee? Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I wanted to come forward tonight to the Plan Commission and state that I am in agreement with all of the village staff recommendations. Jeff Retzloff and his staff have worked many hours to assess this rezoning request, and I think that the Plan Commission Board should agree with the staff findings. The reasons why: currently, the property is zoned B1 district, which is neighborhood business district. And when you're a B1 district, a restaurant may not include outdoor dining or drive-through service. So Taco Bell would have to go for the B5, and I think it should be denied. The property is too small. I I think you should deny the conditional use permit. It infringes on the 25-foot wetland and the 75-foot navigable waterway setback area. The property currently is in a 100-year floodplain, number 359, on the Menominee River. And those wetlands and navigable waterways should not be disturbed. So that leads to the site development. They want to redevelop about 0.83 acres. And it is, and the property is so close to Highway 41 interchange. It is so busy, and the Menominee River, to allow any other development than is currently zoned for the B1 business. So I encourage you to deny all three proposals. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the rezoning application or the conditional use permit? Is there anyone online that wishes to speak? Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward to speak for or against the rezoning application from changing to a B1 neighborhood business to a B5 highway business zoning, and also to issue a conditional use permit to encroach upon the 25-foot wetland setback and the 75-foot navigable waterway setback? Anyone else wishing to come forward? Okay, then this public hearing is now closed. Takes care of all public hearings on tonight's agenda. We will then go to action on new business item B. Commissioners?
Make a motion to approve the rezoning application submitted by Sundance Inc. for the Taco Bell and changing it from a B1 to a B5 highway business district as presented.
You're picking them one by one, and you're starting with the rezoning application.
Correct.
Okay. Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Ball.
I was surprised when you lashed out at Jeff that he had not told you any of this. When you guys were here the first time, I was pretty adamant that this is not right for this location. It is way too popular of a restaurant. Traffic at your current restaurant is horrendous. It's not going to work here. The young lady who really got irate, yeah, garbage is all over the place. And you're putting a dumpster enclosure right next to a waterway. All that garbage is going to be in the creek. That is not going to fly. It's way too dense for this location. The architecture is abominable. It is terrible. I have done projects like this before, and I've had to turn those clients down because their buildings are so bad. The one up in West Bend, I believe that is a good representation of what you're going to get at this location. I've seen them. I've done them. They look terrible. I won't support rezoning this for this project.
Further discussion.
I feel the same way, but I want to extend it into the wetland intrusion. I don't like the arrangement to mitigate it. Jeff, I appreciate that you went to some lengths to try to accommodate in your proposal, but you also, of course, recommended we turn it down. Anyway, I don't like the traffic pattern on County Line Road anyway. I think this is just going to add to it. So I'm definitely opposed to this, all three. But I guess we're just voting on the zoning right now.
All right, just the zoning change.
Oh, can I add one more thing? I do not recall that, as was brought up by one of the commenters, I know I was off of the board for a short time, but that's been quite some time ago. I don't remember ever looking at this as a preliminary. I feel bad that Taco Bell has purchased this property with the expectation that we would approve it.
Sure, it's a business agreement.
Okay, well.
It's
anyway.
not their first rodeo.
I hope so, but anyway.
Further
Mr. Chair?
discussion?
Mr. Chair? Peter Nillis here.
Yes, sir.
I had a question regarding the traffic analysis. I saw the turning movement shown for getting the deliveries onto the site. Were those ever overlaid with the proposed intersection improvements? Because I just don't see how that would work.
That's a question for the traffic engineer?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is Michael May. Actually, the truck turning templates were prepared by the civil site engineer, so the civil site engineer would need to answer that question. Jason, are you there?
He's coming forward.
All right, thank you.
Guys shouldn't sit in the back of the room. It's not a church. You can sit up front.
Would he be able to repeat the question for me?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So the turning templates, as shown on the screen right now, were they ever overlaid with the proposed intersection improvements at the median? 'Cause it just doesn't seem like those would work together.
Well, depending, are you talking about the improvements that were discussed as part of the traffic analysis?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on what would happen with the intersection itself, you know, it would have to be strategic as far as what direction the truck would be able to enter from and exit from. And that would be manipulated as needed. Typically when these configurations are laid out, they are laid out for semi-type traffic as well, with multiple curbs and whatnot. So that would be accounted for in the design, you know, assuming, you know, which configuration would be required.
Well, that among all the other issues with this site makes it very, very difficult for me to support this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Retzhoff.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say that the turning movement, which I can skip back to, it just take me a few minutes, shows all the truck deliveries coming from the east, entering the site, turning around, and then exiting, also going to the east. So if that's the only movement that can be made internally, then it would seem that the only median alternative would be the top right one, the only one that allows left turns to leave the Taco Bell site, correct?
Well, it would be designed, you know, per DOT standards, similar to how roundabouts are designed, where you've got your main traffic, you know, lanes for your main vehicle traffic, and then you have raised curb to account for any truck maneuvers that would need to happen. And something similar in that instance would be implemented here to meet those DOT standards.
Did you do a turning movement template for this site with truck deliveries coming from the west or leaving to the west, or is this the only turning movement?
Not under the scenarios that were presented in the TIA, no.
Yeah, but that was independent of the turning movement information. The TIA doesn't address the turning movements at all.
Correct. We did not overlay any traffic turns as far as anything presented in the TIA itself.
Okay.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Williams, did you have your hands up earlier? Okay.
I'd just add,
Mr. Kimler.
you know, I agree with the everything that has been said about the traffic, and to me, the whole garbage situation with a drive-through fast food restaurant right next to a major waterway seems like a terrible idea. You know, I work for a municipality, and we take care of all the green space in that municipality, and it's fresh in my mind with the spring cleanup. What we have to do so that we can keep those green spaces mowed and such, and maintain them. And you know, we probably filled up 7 30-cubic 30-yard dumpsters with garbage, and that garbage is almost always just fast food restaurant garbage. So when people eat at a fast food restaurant, I don't know, they throw it out the window. It's going to end up in the waterway. So you know, for me, for that, it's a terrible idea.
Some of that is the person themselves and not the restaurant owner.
I know, but they go hand in hand. I don't see the restaurants ever doing their part in picking up the garbage themselves either, so.
And I would assume, am I free to speak?
Yes.
And I would assume, this site, if it were to get approved tonight, we would go into some sort of a maintenance agreement for stormwater. Typically that would include, picking up of litter, making sure landscaping is manicured. The lawn is kept in good condition, just because we are, from a mitigation standpoint, creating filter strips and things of that nature to help clean up the stormwater leaving the site. And just to comment on one other thing as well that was mentioned by someone from the audience as far as wetlands and floodplain. I just wanted to point out we're not filling any wetland. We're not looking to develop in any floodplain. However, we are developing within the existing footprint of the existing impervious that is on site currently. We're actually reducing it a little bit. So we are cleaning up the stormwater as part of this development. We're implementing 2-foot sumps in our catch basins to help settle out the total suspended solids. It's not required, but we're doing it as part of the project, as part of the mitigation, just for putting back in place the pavements that's there. Like Jeff mentioned, we're infringing within the wetland and the shoreline setbacks there. We are introducing a filter strip to help protect those wetlands from stormwater runoff, which is not currently in place. As well as part of that is mitigating the non-native species of vegetation that's along that corridor as well. So, we're doing what we can with the site, compared to its current state to improve stormwater management immensely. And again, that's all going to be included in, I'm assuming, a recorded document that states that we've got to do that, which includes picking up litter typically.
Further discussion? I think I've got a couple questions in regards to the zoning. The site's difficult. I can see that. I wish we could create a back door out somehow rather than just have one traffic pattern in and out. Somebody mentioned that where you're currently at, not only is along a river on the opposite side where the river crosses, but also has several driveways in and out. But there are, some left-hand turns that come from eastbound traffic to try to go across, but the curbing as it is currently set up, allows for that. And with all the lights that are between that, the McDonald's and Fleet Farm, there are enough breaks where they can get across within a certain amount of time. But my question comes, and while I appreciate your willingness to invest in our community and to enhance your restaurant experience, why are you not considering the current site?
We currently lease that site, so we'd always like to own the property when we can.
Okay. And I imagine your lease is coming to a sunset soon, but it's been, as long as I've lived in Germantown, which is over 20 years. So you've been leasing that site for over 20 years?
Yes, in fact, so the franchise agreement is coterminous with the lease. I mean, we can extend both if we need to, yeah, so that's why we started looking for a place to buy.
And that's more of a Sundance business plan than of the franchisor than it is anything else?
Yeah, Yum doesn't tell us we need to lease or own. I mean, it's completely on the owner.
Okay. Okay, that answers my question there. Boy, I have no other questions at this time. Something's going to be happening here eventually. Is that building empty now? It is, correct?
No, I think there's still one
The hair
tenant
salon?
left.
What is still in that building? Do you know? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Retzloff.
I have a question for Tim. Putting aside the lease versus ownership issue, do you believe that this site is more appropriate and beneficial from a community-wide standpoint, traffic, service than the existing location that has two ways in and out, one of them being a controlled intersection?
I know that this kitchen is more efficient, so we can service a faster throughput. From the traffic perspective, I would agree with you that our existing lease is probably a better site.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Further discussion? No further discussion? I need you to come up front to do it. Only because there's people listening at home and via WebEx, so they won't be able to hear you.
Others to do this. My name is Shirley Engelman on W180N9843 Rivers Bend, Circle West. I was curious as to if this Taco Bell business is over. I mean, have you stopped it or not? The question I have is when you talked about the vegetation between the new Taco Bell and Buffalo Wings, is that the vegetation you're talking about that's on the river or a clump there? And then the metal grating over the bridge is at that same area?
Yeah, Mr. Ritzel.
Yes.
Okay.
But when we talk about, if I could maybe anticipate your next question, when we talk about removing the vegetation to improve the sight line, we're only talking about the vegetation that, as you can see on the screen, is currently growing through the railing or is close to the railing within, I would guess, of 10-foot distance north of the railing. We're not suggesting or recommending that all of the trees on either side of the river be removed in order to improve the sight line, just some regular maintenance and removal of what's close to the railing right now.
Okay. Somehow it was explained that it was going to be all the ground underneath that vegetation. And I thought, well, you can't do that. That's part of the river as well as, so, okay. I thought, okay, that's
Like the Kutzlu and all the invasives that are growing up through that area. Mm-hmm. Further discussion? Thank you. No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed?
No.
Aye. Motion fails. I think the site's difficult. I'd ask you to look at it maybe again and see if there's some of the issues that have been brought forward can be resolved in some way. There may be a workable solution there. I'd love for you to reconsider where you are. I think that works really well, and it is a popular area, and you do still have some access to the river that you maybe could enhance or use to your advantage for outdoor seating or something. But I appreciate you wanting to enhance your business in Germantown and looking for ways to do that. And I would ask that you continue to pursue that and see if something can be done in order to either make this site work or something that's close to it. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And everyone that came forward and spoke at the public hearing, I do appreciate you coming out and giving us your comments and your feedback in regards to this item. Mr. Retzloff.
I'd simply want to point out that both the rezoning and the conditional use permit applications. The Plan Commission makes a recommendation on those to the village board for final action. The site plan application would be solely reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission.
With the failure of the rezoning, do we still then do the conditional use as part of the recommendation?
You know, I know I said earlier it's sort of a moot point, which it really is. Yes, I think probably it would be best to just acknowledge for the record that that the other applications or action on the other ones are not to be taken because of the rezoning.
So
being
is that a
denied.
motion or a statement?
I'm saying a statement.
Okay. I'm looking at you.
I would make the comment that we should not continue on with the conditional use or the site development and building plans at this time. The review of those two parts.
So it would then be part and parcel with the approval of the zoning itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Again, thank you all for coming tonight. And if you like, you can stay for the last two, if it interests you. The new business, item C, Village of Germantown Department of Public Works, presentation and request for feedback on replacement streetlights for Mequon Road. Discussion. Oh, okay.
I'm just going to point out that we have Highway Superintendent Scott Anderson here to discuss a project for the Mequon Road corridor street lighting. And the purpose is to get feedback from the Plan Commission for their project going forward.
Thank you, Jeff. Hopefully this is a lighter and quicker topic here this evening. For those of you that don't know me, again, I'm Scott Anderson. I'm with the Highways, Parks, Buildings, and Grounds Department. With me here this evening is Mr. Wayne Higgins, who is the owner and principal engineer at Traffic Engineering Services, who we are contracted with currently to do the design work along the Mequon Road corridor. Just a really quick summary. The corridor in question is, again, Mequon Road between Division Road East to Pilgrim. The lighting there was part of our 2021 budget at $400,000. And at a recent, I think it was February's committee, Public Works Committee, and then consequently approved by the board to work with Traffic Engineering Services to redesign that corridor. The point that we're at right now in the design, we're looking to get some input from your commission on the lighting selections in that area. We have provided both in your packet and online a couple renderings. One of them you will notice is very, very similar, a satellite type fixture. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, maybe one back. Yeah, so this is a very similar fixture to what's out there right now. So we wanted to provide you with something that would keep the same feel. You'll also notice as the color chips come around that we also have a matching color to what's out there as well. We did make a recommendation to you to go with a pendant style fixture. I think it's going to bring a little bit different flavor and aesthetic value to the project. We did recommend also a black textured paint, both for durability with the texture and also just longevity, I think, in the sun with the color. You notice a couple different options, and I guess I'll just quickly point out, wrong direction here, sorry. Some of these options are different manufacturers. And again, that's going to be driven, I think, more based on the pricing we get back. But again, whether we're dealing with one manufacturer or another, we can get similar options in the style of lighting that we're looking to put out there. So again, don't want to take up a ton of time. Happy to answer any questions about the project in general or specifically the selections. And if there's something that I can't answer, we've got Mr. Higgins here as well.
Questions? Mr. Leszewski.
Option 2 is what we have now, right?
Yep, option 2 would be very similar.
So when I look at option 3, I guess 4, all the bulbs are somewhat exposed compared to option 2, which is more of a cutoff.
Yep.
Is that intentional, or will we get more reflection or glare based on when you're driving down the road? Are you going to see glowing orbs, or are you going to see essentially just the down?
And I'll tell you, that's going to be a great question for Wayne. I do know that the one input that I'll give is one of the things that we were hoping to get from the pendant style is some better lighting along the sidewalk through the corridor. But Wayne, maybe you want to take that question.
The glass on the pendant will divert light to the sidewalk, which is something that's very important. We don't have good enough lighting on the sidewalk now. The cutoff flat bottom limits that light that goes out to the side. It also limits the spacing. We're trying to see if we can utilize the existing foundations. If we can use those foundations over again, saves a lot of money. And with selecting the right software, we can do those things. Now, what you have out there now is a big bulb with glassware that is or isn't on the fixture. They're both ways. And that big bulb ends up with a lot of glare that comes to your eyes. With the LED, you have little tiny lights that are all oriented to reduce that glare and yet give you the distribution you need. So we can get a better performance and we can get less glare than we have now by going to the fixture we're recommending.
Mr. Retzloff.
I would just follow up on that. I know, or I'm guessing because I wasn't here at the time, but the lighting guidelines that were developed for the village many years ago speak highly of fixtures that are cutoff fixtures. We require that for all new developments and such, so that the glare and the light doesn't cast outward from the site and affect adjoining properties. And in situations where it does, we, in essence, require that they relocate those poles and possibly put them on the perimeter, cast the light back towards the building in the parking lot, and in some cases have shields on the backside so that the properties to the off the site, don't get or see any of that glare. So my question is, the pendant style of number 1 or 3, you say is going to diffuse the light outward from the center, the median where the poles are, out towards the sidewalk and improve the light compared to what we currently have. My concern is for at least a short stretch on Mequon, where we've got the single family residential area on the south side, with the pole height being 30 feet and more light being diffused to the sidewalk, that we're going to get complaints from those residents when the lights are changed that they're getting more glare, or seeing more light than what they had previously. Has that been considered in your design? And how effective are the LEDs that you can direct that glare? Can you get it to just stop right at the edge of the sidewalk? And is it adjustable in some way?
2 weeks ago, I finished a project for a residential subdivision next to a church. In the church parking lot, they said, you can't have any light on the property outside of the church property. And it cuts off right at it. Because of the control we can get from having each little point being directed for efficiencies. So you will find that the light will go out to the sidewalk, but it's not going to light beyond. Where with the big lamp, you can't do that because your reflection distributes too much light out. So we'll get a good result, and I will be checking that to be sure. I started trying to run the stuff on the computer program the last couple days, and that kind of information will be certainly looked at.
The other question I had was, or 2 questions actually. One is what color is proposed? The K value. Are we talking about a warm white light or a daylight colors?
It's,
Has that been decided yet?
it's decided by the virtue of the fact that they come in 3,000 and 4,000, and that's like daylight.
Not quite 5,000 Kelvin.
Do you know what the current?
Current is like a high pressure sodium.
So it's more of a warmer light.
It's a very, very yellow light, yeah.
Again, the important thing, again, just to add, I mean, we are lighting a roadway, and that's an important distinction here. We're not looking at a parking lot and that kind of thing. We are lighting State Highway 167. So that's just an important consideration there.
Well, these last longer than the last ones. It seemed like those were fragile, and within a short time that they were already missing either globes or there were issues with the shields. I mean, it just didn't seem like it was a long lasting solution, whatever was put up last time. So what you're saying is these lights will be better, but you're also going to put them on the actual poles that are there currently?
No,
Just the footing.
just the footing is being considered to be used.
And then you said that
You are-
there's software enhancements. Does each light have its own, or is it controlled by one controller somewhere within the range?
Each light is on its own with its own individual little directions, and you order the fixture to give you what you need.
So each one can be programmed separately or independently?
No, they can be set up in different light patterns for different locations. But in this particular instance, because it's a continuous straight roadway,
Yeah.
they would pretty much all be the same.
Okay. So if they need to be tuned or retuned, each one is handled separately, or it's something you plug into and you can
don't
see
really
each one?
retune them.
I'm sorry?
You don't really retune them. You don't change the LEDs once they're in the fixture.
But you should be able to redirect if needed.
No, you cannot. They are fixed elements in a little strip that has all the lights oriented in it for each use.
So what does the control do then? Why does each one need its own if they're all the same?
He's referring back to the previous question about being able to address the lighting on the south side of the road, if I'm understanding you correctly, right?
Well, what he had said is that each light will have its own control chip. So there would be purpose in that in regards to either intensity or just in setup. I imagine the strip can go this way, or it can go this way, or it can be in a circle. So you can, depending on how it radiates out. So each control being its LED, is it just turning it off or on, or is it keeping the center brighter and the outside not as bright? I mean, what is the control doing?
Directing the light from the LED to a specific area so that let's say you have 25 LEDs.
Mhm.
Those 25 LEDs are spread out so that you're going up and down the road and out to the side, but you're going up and down more than you are out to the side in your light pattern. And that is coupled with the fact that you got your glassware on the bottom that helps to distribute the light too.
Can I interject
And
for a minute?
it's a very, very precise method compared to what we used to have.
Sure.
Where we just had glass reflecting, bulb reflecting, and glassware that was trying to direct the light. And your losses were significant.
So each one is its own control. Each one has its own controller on it, and there's not a way for you to look at it as a ribbon of lights and have access to each of those controllers through the software program?
No, you do not have, the software program I have is what gives me settings that are preset that I buy to have put on the pole
Mhm.
to use for the specifics on that location. And in this case, it's pretty much repeating because we're doing a mile-long corridor.
Mhm. Trustee Bong?
So when you talk about a controller, I don't think we're talking the same language. We're not talking a computer system that's controlling the fixture and making the fixture do things. He's got software that will show him how to lay out all the light fixtures. You buy a light fixture that has certain criteria to it, which makes the light shine in a certain area. And you can either get one that has an elliptical shape, a full round shape, or a cone shape to shine out, shine down, or shine linear. So you'll pick the different street lights and you will pick which one you want to have as a linear fixture, which one you want to have as a cone fixture, and which one you want to have as a circular fixture. That's the programming that we're talking about, as opposed to telling your computer to brighten this one up and dim this one down, and turn this one to this one. No, you buy one fixture and you get either one of the scenarios, and it stays that way for the rest of its life until you switch off the head.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you pre-design the fixture and the position of the LEDs, or it's already fixed, and then you pick the pattern of diffusion of the light. In addition to my earlier concern about light spillover beyond the sidewalk and into the properties, which you say you can control in some way by the design of the fixture and the selection of the pattern. Where does height come into play? Can you lower the height of where those fixtures are? Because right now, even after being in this community for 20 plus years, I still go back to the first time I drove down Mequon Road and I felt like, why are those streetlights so darn high? It's like I'm at the freeway interchange where they're 80 feet in the air and the light is being dispersed over the widest area to take advantage of the fact that you can't have a light pole every so often. You got to have one in the middle and cast down. It has the same effect when you drive down Mequon Road. It doesn't feel like a comfortable corridor. It feels, David, you could probably describe it better than I can. You know, it's not a human scale. It's like it's beyond that.
Right. It's a technology of the time. Would you say high pressure sodiums up there? Yeah. That's a light fixture that needed to be high to get the light out of it. It doesn't work close in.
So could we lower the height to a point where it's above traffic and height of the trucks and whatever the minimum height above the road surface needs to be?
Plan to replace the poles as they are?
Yeah.
If you look at the mathematics real quick, it's 30 feet in the air, 60 feet either side of it. Your angle is about right at 30 feet to be able to get the normal distribution you're looking for to get 60 feet out for 120 foot right away.
And
you come down to 20 feet, you're not going to get the light barely to the outside lane.
But you can't make that selection with the LEDs and the design of the LEDs now? I mean, now we're not talking about high pressure sodium.
No.
I'm not trying to get to the point that I have LEDs that are pointing out at a 20-degree angle. I want them down so that I can have the cut off and yet have the light on the sidewalk.
I understand. I'm just asking if there's a way to do both. And
These are also consistent with every other roadway that runs through Germantown main thoroughfare, just as a quick aside to that.
Well, I understand why you're lighting the road. One of my questions would be, are we redoing the lighting because we're being told that we don't have adequate light on Mequon Road?
We're doing the lighting because it's falling apart.
Okay, so the idea that we're going to be providing more light, an increased lighting level along Mequon Road
is not the idea.
So we're not providing a greater lighting level than we currently have.
Society is just putting out a brand new policy on light levels for arterial streets. And it's exactly the same as it was before at 1.2 foot candles.
Okay, so
So we're not seeing any changes up or down in standards, and we're trying to work towards meeting that standard maintained at 1.2 foot candles.
So when the complaints come in about the lights being brighter, we can say with a straight face that it isn't because the lighting level is higher now with the new lights. It's because the color is different.
It's a different color and it's gonna look much better for your visibility.
Okay.
You're still gonna get the complaints.
Oh, it'll be different. You'll get the complaints because it'll look different, but it'll look better. Because if you go up and down Mequon now, it looks awful.
You'll see green grass.
It's hit or miss. It's hit or miss, and it's becoming more miss than hit lately.
No, I understand. I'd like everyone to go into it with eyes wide open because the complaints come in to only certain departments. And maybe trustees as well, the sort of we get lighting complaints, I don't say regularly, but when we do, they're difficult to deal with at times.
Okay.
You can change the fixture and the light, but you're gonna end up putting more poles in closer together to get them down lower, to give you the streetscape that you're looking for, that small town feel. Go over into Thiensville, their main street. I think their fixtures are only 50 feet apart. They're that tight.
And they're only about 22 feet at most,
Yeah,
maybe 20.
yeah.
So option 5 is closest in, at least in terms of aesthetics, to what we have today. Does that still give you the illumination to the sidewalk? Is the pendants do like those?
It doesn't get as much as we'll be able to have on a uniform basis as we'll get from the LED.
So option 5 isn't, no, it isn't LED.
Option 5.
Yeah,
what's
they're
on
all
there?
LED. Yep, it's a satellite fixture, similar to
It's a similar one to what's out there, but
I'm just looking at the light again, maybe less complaints because you don't have that exposed tulip shaped pendant that you were going to get with options 1, 3, and 4. So my comment is, I think by going with the better or newer bulb technology, using the old architecture, the shape of the thing, it's the least worst compromise in my opinion.
But it won't light the sidewalks.
It won't light the sidewalks, or won't light them as well as the other ones, the pendant lights. I assume they light them better than option 2 does today.
what we have proposed will light it better than what we have out there today. That's the goal.
Color preference? You don't have to pick it. I'm looking at everybody.
I like the warmer, higher. It's higher, right, on the Kelvin scale than the daylight or.
Well, warmer is lower,
light white, because I think
cooler
that-
is higher.
Mhm.
I believe the cooler is higher, like the 5,000 plus.
Cooler, in my opinion, more towards the warm side.
I think LED lighting as a whole is whiter. And I don't have a problem with that. He's not going up to 5,000 Kelvin, so he's hanging around 3 to 4. When in my business, when you have to look at color for color, you're looking under 5,000 Kelvin lights to give a balance of color to see how it looks and when it reflects for color approvals.
I just know when I look around my neighborhood, a lot of people put in the LED lights, and those really white lights on a house look terrible, in my opinion, compared to the warmer light.
What about color of fixture?
Black with the texture.
Black with the texture.
Okay.
I thought this was going to be an easy topic.
That's easy.
It is.
We're laughing.
Good. Compared to that.
All right. Anything else? Yes.
Pays to operate and maintain, and is there a
Yeah, this was all talked about with the committee and the board, of course. Currently, We Energies owns the lighting in that corridor, and the village pays both energy and rental of that equipment. Consequently, the village paid to put it in initially. And so what got us to this point today is they can no longer get parts for what's falling apart. And so we had a debate back and forth at committee level on whether we wanted to go with a real standard fiberglass or aluminum pole with just a standard shoebox fixture that We Energies was willing to provide, or did we want to have something more decorative that was going to get the feel that we were looking for through the corridor? And that's how we got to where we are today with these two selections. Real quick, there was a question asked about longevity. And I was going to answer that just by saying the two manufacturers that we're looking at right now, Holophane is one of them, and both Kinderberg and Spaslin Park have Holophane fixtures that are pushing 20 to 25 years old, and they look fantastic yet. And so I think that's going to be a big change for the village. We're making this investment now, but I think we're investing in a company where we're getting a product that's going to last for us.
Good.
And the other company we're looking at is equally as good. We picked good, long-lasting stuff that we knew from past experience. I've been doing street lighting. I did my first street lighting job and 55 years ago. And so it's a little different in what you do today than what you could do then. And the quality is there from the manufacturers. And it still is the same way. If you buy cheap, you get cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not buying cheap. We're buying good quality, good looking, long lasting. And the point of having to worry about lights burning out, it just isn't going to happen with the LED. You get 10 years before you have to do anything.
When one does burn out, what do you have to replace?
Usually the whole thing.
Actually take that strip that I was talking about.
Yep.
And there's two screws. You take those two screws, pull it down, pull the connection apart, put another connection on, put the two screws in, and it's repaired.
They're all just direct drive, just little flat panels that fit in.
I just got done changing them all for my church because I had the wrong, I called what I wanted for light fixture distribution and they didn't give it to me. They gave me round and I wanted a long, narrow pattern. So they shipped me the replacements and I tore it all apart and put it together. And it turned out fine. You know, it was very simple.
Good. Anything else? Any other questions?
Did we make a decision?
Yeah, we got the color.
Got the
We
color.
got the brightness. What about the fixture? After all the debate, I don't want to make that decision.
Yeah, what are the poles going to look like? Do we go over that already?
They're going to be, again, similar. Other way, sorry.
What's the preference? 1 or 3?
5 there.
Yeah, but I thought there was.
There you go.
There will still be a decorative base on this, similar to what was out there before. But this gives you just a general idea of what it would feel like. We tried to provide something that had an elegant look to it.
You like those?
I'm scrolling through to
Oh,
see
okay.
what they all are. I personally like the ones with the glass bulb below, hanging below.
That one?
That would be number 3.
1 or 3.
1 and 3 are,
One is
are
a-
considered equal.
It's one's a Holophane, one's a
One-
Sternberg.
One different manufacturers.
So number 3 better than number 1. You're looking for my recommendation?
Let me see one again.
Number 1 just has a bunch of funky stuff. It's too dainty for that high up. So there's no point in having
More
it.
industrial looking.
And if you go to 3, it's easier, it's simpler.
Yeah, I like 3. 3?
So,
all right.
3.
Looks like 3 is the choice. You need a motion for that? No?
I don't think
Just
so.
this discussion.
We're here for discussion and sharing ideas, and that is what we accomplished.
Excellent.
Picture number 3 in the black
Textured finish,
textured finish.
3 to 4,000 K.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Next item under new business is item D. MSI General Agent for MCPRE1 LLC, property owner of Turnkey Solutions located at North 117 West 19345 Fulton Drive, site plan application for a 10,000 square foot building and parking lot addition. Give us more background and information on this new business item. Again, I'll turn the meeting over to Community Development Director Jeff Retzloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. MSI General Agent for the property owner and Turnkey Solutions is seeking approval of site development and building plans for a 10,000 square foot addition to their existing facility on Fulton Drive. This graphic shows the proposed site plan. The 10,000 square foot addition is highlighted in gray. Along with the building addition, there's 10 additional parking stalls that are proposed and some modifications to the main canopy over the main entryway on the north side of the building. 10,000 square foot addition, just over 8,000 square feet is shown to be for production area, just under 2,000 square feet for conference room, break room, and bathrooms. The painted split face CMU exterior walls will continue from the existing building onto the addition. There will be a smooth face CMU block accent to match the existing building materials, but there will be a new color scheme, a new red accent versus the existing blue. Aluminum frame and anodized windows and door systems. There are 2 RTUs that are proposed on the building addition that are a setback from the roof edge, and there is in the packet a roof plan and a line of sight analysis showing that from the public right away, those RTUs would not be visible. Here are the existing, couple of existing elevations, the north and west. You can see the off-white brick with the gray and blue pattern. The proposed elevation would have a red accent band around the entire building as well as the proposed addition. Site improvements include new water, sanitary, and gas utilities in the location where the building addition is proposed. A 1,500 square foot on-site stormwater storage area, a rain garden is added to assist with the treatment of the runoff on the site, 10 additional parking stalls and exterior lighting proposed mounted on the building and in the parking lot as well. There's a couple of graphics showing the roof plan we can analyze in detail if necessary. There is a minimum amount of landscaping that's proposed around the north edge of the building addition and near the southwest corner of the proposed addition. Staff comments, parking stall size shown on the plan is 162 square feet. The minimum required is 180 on easy fix with extending the stripe length a couple of feet. There is also a second concrete dumpster pad that is out there today, has 2 or 3 construction type dumpsters on it. This pad was constructed after the last addition to the building back in 2008. It never came before the Plan Commission or staff for review or approval. It does need to be enclosed with a standard enclosure and some landscaping. And that's one of the recommendations of staff. And then also the site plan that was approved back in 2008 had landscaping proposed along the west side of the building at that time that was never installed, and that should be incorporated into the new landscape plan. That's a recommendation of staff. Other comments, the standard commercial plan approval and a $20,000 occupancy bond required prior to issuing building permits. The water utility has a concern with existing shutoff valves and whether or not a replacement is necessary. That's addressed through a condition of approval. And some standard conditions from the fire and police department regarding the exterior doors, and some minor technical plan corrections and stormwater comments in an April 9th review memo from the village engineer need to be incorporated into the revised plans. The staff recommendation is to approve the site development and building plans for 10,000 square foot addition to the existing 20,500 square foot turnkey building located on Fulton Drive in the industrial park, subject to 10 conditions. We can go through those, they're in the staff report, but I would give the applicant an opportunity to come forward and add anything they like to the proposal, or respond to any staff concerns or conditions, or respond to questions from the Plan Commission.
Thank you, commissioners, for your time. And thank you, I wanted to say thank you to Jeff and Lori both for their assistance with our submittal over the past couple months. They've been great to work with and very helpful. I'm Jeremy Flint with MSI General. This is John Coots. You may recognize him from some other projects in town. We also have the owner, the property owner, and the business owners with us tonight. And can answer any
Welcome.
questions you may have.
Questions?
I'll just go ahead and make a motion to approve the 10,000 square foot addition with the 10 conditions as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Mr. Leshewski.
2008, did we do the landscape bond, or was that part of the occupancy bond that got missed?
I don't believe that we actually had the occupancy bond requirement at that time. It was soon thereafter. That typically originally it was set up to be exclusively to deal with building permit requirements and occupancy. That might be part of the explanation, that we just didn't have the tools, if you will, to enforce that. And
Today we
it
would,
just
though?
got missed. Frankly, it got missed.
Today we would not miss that?
Yeah,
Okay.
in light of the circumstances, we would make sure that that's installed.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion. Only thing that I would add is in today's environment, there's a lot of places you can go to build. I first appreciate that you are in our industrial park. Thank you for bringing your business there and for building initially. And thank you for considering this enhancement to your business. Congratulations on the need for it. That shows you everything that you're doing for your business plan is working for you and is going in a positive direction. So thank you for wishing to stay here and for building another 10,000 square foot within our industrial park. I appreciate it very much. Any other discussion? No other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for coming. That takes care of all items on tonight. Oh, we have an item E, I'm sorry. We have an item E for Sinorama, agent for Meridian Germantown LLC, property owner of Walmart, located at West 190 North 9855 Appleton Avenue, site review application for a Subway restaurant. Director Retzloff.
Walmart and Subway, by way of Sinorama, are proposing to add a 20 square foot Subway tenant sign in the location and appearance as shown on the screen. This is a proposal similar to one that we've processed many years ago. Back in 2004, the original master sign plan for Walmart was approved and included quite a bit of signage at that time. The maximum wall signage allowance for any particular building is 300 square feet. In 2004, the village approved over 600 square feet of sign area, and they justified that by basically saying that the main Walmart with the logo was the only wall signage which amounted to 298 square feet. And then all the other signs that were for the garden center or the grocery, those were deemed to be directional signs, presumably to help people go to the right side of the building when they look for the right entrance. Be that as it may, the current signs total 558 square feet of total sign area, again, versus the same 300 square foot maximum allowed. A few years back, we had some minor changes in the wording on some of the signage, and that's where the number came down to 558 square feet. But it was consistent with the same concept that the main Walmart logo was 298 square feet and everything else was directional signs. Previously, a similar proposal was proposed for Subway, and staff recommended, and the Plan Commission ultimately denied the tenant sign on the outside. One of the arguments staff made then and continues to make now is that Subway is just another department in the department store. There's not advertising for men's clothes or the iStore or whatever else might be in that front area, as you leave the register area and heading for the doors. I mean, in my opinion, those uses, including Subway, are accessory uses to the overall business and aren't intended to be principal uses of the site that are trying to attract passerby traffic on Appleton Avenue. Certainly a 20 square foot sign in that particular location, that far from the road, isn't going to serve any other purpose as far as trying to attract new business to, hey, there's a Subway. I'm looking for a Subway. That's where I'm going. So from that standpoint, the staff doesn't believe, like we did previously, that it's worth approving a tenant sign only to set a precedent to allow additional tenant signs if that's the direction the Planning Commission wants to go. Frankly, the staff recommendation is to deny the proposed wall-mounted Subway sign. But if the Plan Commission did choose to approve it, presumably in recognition of it being just another directional sign, this is the entry to get to closest to the Subway, staff would recommend, if you wanted to approve that, at least attach one condition concerning the electrical components, the standard electrical requirement condition.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Bong.
Yeah, I won't support it. I agree with what you said, Jeff. It's not a directional sign. It's just another department in the store. And based on the scale of it and how far back away this is from the street, nobody at the street's going to see it.
Why don't they put it on their monument sign?
That's actually a good question. They could do that. They could identify it as one of the different, type of department, but I don't know why they haven't.
Yeah, I think it would be better served on the monument sign, not only for if is the intent to get passerby traffic, it would be more seen than it would be on a building.
Right.
It just gets lost in the rest of the building, really. I mean, I don't even know if the pickup is, doing what they think it's doing.
Right.
There's probably still people asking where they pick it up.
I mean, given its position and how close it is to that entryway, arguably, if you're entering the site from the south, you're not going to see that unless you go all the way the full length of the store.
It bumps out there, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I think it would be better served on a monument sign if they want to propose any type of signage or recognition of this being inside their facility.
Yeah. I don't know. There might be somebody from Sinorama online.
I am online. I've been listening to the discussion. My name is Rod, owner of Sinorama in Menominee Falls. I did listen to your points on it, and I did not know that this was already looked at 3 different times since 2006. So I do apologize on that. I would explain it to the current owner. Just the current owner, local person, just is really struggling with the business right now. And he just had a suggestion to try to get it on people's mind when they're coming into the store. I'll certainly propose the idea of putting out on the monument sign. However, that sets a precedence in the Walmart culture, which I don't think that's going to be allowed, unfortunately. But I do understand all of your points. It's just a very small business owner that was hoping to get some sort of extra recognition that is on people's mind on the way into the store.
Okay. Okay, appreciate that input. Further discussion?
What wall is that actually on? Is that on the south wall or is it on the, which one?
North.
East facing.
North wall?
Well, it faces,
It faces the east, but it's on the north side of the building.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't see it being very visible myself, so.
further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
No, never mind.
It was your motion.
Yeah.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails. That takes care of all items under new business. Does anyone have any announcements they'd like to make?
Yes, just that we will tentatively, you're planning for a special plan commission the fourth Monday of this month. Will be the 26th, I believe.
Okay.
In person or virtual?
We're gonna move, I think, closer to in person, so it won't be all virtual. It will be a mixture. If you don't want to attend in person, you don't have to, but it will be in person for many of us.
Okay. Very good. All right. Then with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you all for watching, and have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. That's it.
Have a good week.
Thanks, you too. I was going to show you a picture of my